Hey, a pleasant good day, everyone. Welcome into the Sports Phanatic News and True Philadelphian Sportscast NHL Free Agency Show, where we talk about the free agents that are still available and where we think they might land. I am joined by my always and often co-host, SteelFlyers, who is to my right in this video. I hope that's how it's set up actually in the video too, but where it is for me right now. And then Pearlo Wisdom to my left, how it's set up for me right now, at least. How it's set up for y'all, who knows? But please like, comment, and subscribe to our Sports Fanatic News YouTube page and True Philadelphian Sportscast on the podcast platforms. We really appreciate your support. But Steel, I'll start with you. How you doing today?
I'm doing, man. I'm doing. It's been rather weird weather, kind of where I'm at. It's like in the 60s, and so I got
It
the
was
window
nice.
open. I know. It's like, whoa, all right. So
Yeah, I
I'll,
played hockey today. It was nice.
I know. I'll take advantage of that in October. Other than that, I'm doing great, man. I'm blessed to be here. Thank you guys very much for having me. It's always a pleasure. Can't wait to get into it, man. Free agency. Let's see what we got.
Yeah, free agency time is always fun. It started, of course, last week, and now we have some guys that are still pretty solid names to mention available still. Pirlo, how you doing today?
Sweet, not so lucky on the weather front, but there's a little bit of snow on the
Still
ground.
snowing?
Yeah,
Oh,
Oh man.
it's about 45 Fahrenheit, I think, something like that.
Uh,
that's not
Or
good, though.
maybe it's 35. I don't know, 0 degrees. So it got a little above 0 degrees Celsius. I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit necessarily, but somewhere around there, maybe
Still
30.
cold.
It's cold. It's pretty cold. It's pretty cold. It's October for here, always like this, but it warms my heart to talk about some free agency. I'll tell you that right now
There
because
you go.
I love talking to
The
hockey.
free agency is your hot cocoa.
Yes, it is. It sure is. Warms the populace.
Perfect. Wait, perfect. That's perfect, man. Because who doesn't like hot cocoa? I mean, seriously, who doesn't
Yeah.
like hot cocoa? And this is very odd too, because normally we would not even be remotely talking about free agency right now. We would be talking about what? The first week or the first
Yeah.
week and a half of the season right
Yeah.
now, normally. You know what I mean? So this is definitely uncharted territory.
That is for sure. That is 100% uncharted territory this year, but having the season followed by the free agency right away definitely kept it going and kept it more and more interesting. So let's jump right into it, and we'll start with forwards, and then we're going to go to goaltenders, and then we're going to go to defensemen for you in this video. At forwards, the elephant in the room guy that everybody knows about that's still available is obviously Mike Hoffman. He's a guy that's the best scorer that was honestly in the entire free agency. No offense, Tyler Toffoli, I love you too, but you're not better at scoring than Mike Hoffman. He's the best overall scorer. The problem is that also makes him paid more, and we know in this climate people don't want to spend as much, which Foley got a pretty good deal as far as I'm concerned in the low 4 millions range. So Hoffman, we know, is going to get more than that. So it's going to be interesting who shells out the money. But I'll go to Pearlo first on this one. Give me two teams that you think might shell out the money and get this top scorer in the free agency and Mike Hoffman.
Well, first of all, I'll talk about a team that I didn't have in my head that I heard some pretty strong rumors on that he is waiting for Vancouver to free up room to sign him. And that one threw me for a loop because they're pretty stacked on forward, but with they have a lot of forwards already that are pretty good. I hope they're not doing something stupid like trading Brock Besser, but I don't know how that would be or if it's true or not, but it's something that came up today, so I throw it out there. As far as other teams that may be in on that, this is one where you may like somebody like the Colorado Avalanche could give him. We've heard about he's actually mentioned that he would consider a 1-year thing like Taylor Hall did if it makes sense for him. And I think that's something that Joe Sakic may do for 1 year. Why not go for it? Take a high percentage shooter like Hoffman for that second line to bolster that second line behind maybe the best or at least top 2 lines in the league. So that would be one. And besides that, there's a bevy of teams that are probably underneath that like if you're going to do a 1 year, I know the Calgary Flames, if they can find the room, would love to have a guy like Hoffman. That would be fantastic for them if they could do that, a 1 year deal, bring Hoffman in. I thought Taylor Hall was going to go there, but apparently that didn't work out. So I'm sure they would be quite happy to get somebody like Hoffman. So that would be my other team off the top of my head.
Yeah, there's probably going to be, look, he's going to probably get, and already is probably getting, a large amount of phone calls for his services. Okay, and I think really what's going to really determine that is exactly with what happens with Taylor Hall, right? Mm-hmm. And Taylor Hall was signed, yes.
1 year, $8 million. Yeah, just
1 year, $8 million.
Just a 1 year deal. Yeah.
Okay, and so would you put Taylor
gave
Hall?
him more money because of this year?
Would I put
1 year
Taylor
deals
Hall
are going to give you more money because
understand. Okay, but see, that's kind of basically what everybody's kind of looking at right now with Mike Hoffman. You see what I'm saying? Because there's nobody going to give him tenure or anything like that. And so,
are you saying would it be in the same category?
That's what I'm trying to say. I don't think it is.
Maybe $1 million.
No,
less.
I don't think so either, because Taylor Hall is a guy when at his best is a guy that won the Hart Trophy, can be a 85 points and up guy, where Mike Hoffman isn't that because he doesn't pass. He's not like, he's an okay, but he's like he's not that great of a passer. He sets his teammates up maybe like 20 times at most a year usually.
Right.
And then Potts like 40 goals. He's a scorer.
2 years.
That's why he's a straight up scorer. That's what that's what you're paying Mike Hoffman for. But Taylor Cole at his best is an overall dynamic player.
You're asking me which two teams I think might have the cap
$6
space.
million, maybe, honestly, with the way it is this
1
year.
year.
Just because,
that's why.
Yeah, you asked salary, what it could be. Well, if he gets a couple years, it'll probably only be for 6 too, because you're not going to get paid more with the cap staying steady for 2 years. If you get paid a 2 or 3 year deal,
that's what I mean. I
would say like $6 million, 6.5 at most.
Right. That's why I wanted to point that out, because that shoe dropped with Tyler Hall, right? Or Taylor Hall, or however you want to say that. Mr. Hall got the $8 million 1 year. So that pretty much set the bar right there. So what teams are in that neighborhood, or let's go the tier below that. So that means teams have to be in the $6.5 million range. What teams are going to be able to do that? LA comes to mind. Okay. Coyotes come to mind. Do they have cap space?
No, they don't.
They're not going to have cap space.
Okay. You would
LA definitely comes to mind. LA comes to mind. You know what I mean? And I know that you did also mention the Avalanche, and that was one of the other teams I was going to mention as well. Yeah. But you know who else might also be potentially doing this? And I know this is going to sound really weird, but do you think maybe a team like Montreal or a team like the Islanders or somebody along those lines, do you think, or even Toronto?
I feel Montreal would, if Toronto won't have the money, I feel like Montreal would be more likely because they have more years of control with their guys than the Islanders do at the current point, so they're gonna have to pay guys a little bit sooner. Right. So if they give them a 2 to 3 year, say they give them a 3-year deal, that wouldn't ever really hurt them in Montreal if he gets paid like $6 million a year. Where in New York, that might eventually hurt the team a little bit to be giving him $6 million, not because he's not producing, just because of where young guys are at and where they need to get paid at that point of their careers. So
okay, and then the next other thing, the next other place I would say would be someplace like either Minnesota or even Winnipeg, what are they looking like as far as, because it just seems like
The
those teams.
Jets have been a rumored team because if they get rid of
Right,
Line A, they're going to want another scorer. Yeah, so that makes
right.
sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's why, yeah. So maybe, one of those says it's all going to boil down to who's going to have the money to afford that kind of second tier kind of money that he's going to be looking for. If he's not going to get the 1 year, then he's going to be looking for tenure. And if he's going to be looking for tenure, then he's going to be looking for at least 6.5 to maybe 7. So
I think if he wants tenure, he's going to have to take less, actually.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to take. That's why I said at most I would think 6 if he gets tenure. Like I said
I think it would be more
earlier,
like
6
5 or
and a
4
half at
tenure.
most. But
okay, so you guys are on the lower end of what I said. I did
well,
say 6.
I would say it would be more than 4 because I don't think Hoffman's going to get paid less. Again, I love Tyler Toffoli, but he's not better than Mike Hoffman. So I don't think Mike Hoffman's going to get paid less than him. Where I think he'll get paid at least like Toffoli's like they're kind of he's not like Hoffman's not a tier above Toffoli. It's just he's at like the top of the tier, where Toffoli's more in the middle of the same tier. So like that's why I feel Hoffman's going to get paid at least 5.5. I can definitely go with though. I feel like 4 though is a little low for me. I mean that would be. I feel like if I'm Mike Hoffman, that's a little painful to stomach. After having
Yeah, because
another.
that would be a pay cut from what he was getting this past year. You know what I mean?
If you're getting paid less than some of the guys that normally do not score nearly as much as you that already got signed.
Right.
So that would be interesting. But I mean, you guys pretty much hit all the teams on the head because Winnipeg was going to be a team I mentioned because of Line A. Now, a team that's bought some people out and moved some people around, if they continue to move people around and he wants a 1 year deal, I wouldn't be 100% shocked if Nashville becomes a contender.
Oh, that's a good.
Nashville's been a huge
Ooh,
contender. I
That
was going to
point,
mention
yeah,
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 Nashville
that's a
too.
great call. Oh,
um,
yeah.
because they really need. We saw that this year. They were a solid team still. They had 35 wins. They just couldn't get the key scoring when needed most, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things that Mike Hoffman's the best for. So, in sake of keeping it going, I'm at the as a host. I'm just going to one team so we don't dwell on Mike Hoffman for half of the entire
Well, no, I was
Yeah.
just gonna say
pod.
actually because if you go with him, then maybe his teammate, Daninoff, right, could be what is going to be the next domino that falls because he's right around in that kind of he's that
He's
next
already
tier
gone. He went
below.
to
No,
Ottawa.
he's shot.
He did.
He
Oh, he
signed,
did.
Danilov.
Okay.
signed in Ottawa, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was a good deal for Ottawa too, because I think bringing in a veteran for, I think it was 5 million a year.
For 3 years.
Like, yeah.
And
So
you know
I
what?
think that's good. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No. That okay. But the Grunland leaving Nashville, that's going to leave the hole in there too, and that's almost the same kind of money for Hoffman and or you know what I mean. So
He
that might be
definitely produces more than Michael Gronlund, who's been struggling a little bit
yeah.
at this point. But since you mentioned him, and he's also a free agent, why don't we just go on to good old Mikey here then and talk about the 28, I think he's 28, the 28-year-old Michael Grunland, who still had 30 points this year in 63 games, but that's coming off of a year where he's actually been solid before that with at least 50 in the last 3 previous years, was 260-point seasons in 16 and 17, and then a 54-point season in 18. So 30's solid. He's a guy that definitely will get picked up by somebody, has some speed to his game. Never became exactly, I believe he was the ninth overall pick of his draft. He never exactly became truly that. But I think he's a guy that actually has a chance, if he goes to the right situation, to produce like in the 40 points percentile to like 55 points at least, because he's usually been good for that. So what teams do you guys think? I'll let Steel start with this one. Think need a guy like that who's a high competitor that typically gets you at least the middle tier points
Yeah,
category.
yeah, because he might. I think he might even be. He might even be a peg higher than Hoffman, and he might even demand more money than Hoffman too.
He might demand it. He's not going to get it though.
You don't think so? Really? Okay.
No.
I mean, I'll
If
be real honest
Hoffman,
with you. I
unless if
would love to
Hoffman
see
gets
him in orange and
really
black.
annoying
Mm.
I would love to see
for a
that. That would
year.
be my dream. But
Yeah, I would take him for. I feel like Gronlin's a guy you got to get a feel for, because he's been like a little seesawy, where he's been like okay in his career, but never amazing. So I don't think you want to give him more than a 2 year, maybe a 1 year deal. So if you do something like that, I'm fine with him coming to the Flyers. If he's a guy because he's at 28 though,
yeah,
that wants say a 4 year deal, I would not be okay with that because I'm not
yeah,
fully confident he's going to be fully consistent in that aspect. So, uh, for a couple years, I would be okay with that. I also think a team like Jersey, who just needs to mix in more guys that can stay with their fast skaters, that have skill there. They're guys that either have long strides so they move up the ice quickly
right,
or quicker skaters.
right.
He might be able to fit there and they still have some space. The way that Ottawa is adding some guys that you could get for 1 year that maybe be able to become trade bait as well as Detroit. Those teams are always options as well because they're adding trade bait potential 1 year contracts on their teams as well, trying to accumulate more assets potentially in the future.
Yeah,
So those
yeah.
are all teams that come to mind.
Calgary might be a team too, especially if Johnny Gaudreau does leave. I mean, so there's some things that haven't happened yet. You know what I mean? That I think are
That
drastically gonna.
change the landscape. Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I mean. If he suddenly announces or comes out and says, within the next couple of weeks that he's looking to be traded or he's not going to be with Calgary anymore, then that's going to either free up space for them. That's going to allow them to get somebody. And I think this Grunland guy would be a pretty good shot up there with Calgary. That might not be a bad call for them if they have the space for it. You know what I mean? He might not even be a bad fit either if. Depending on what happens up there in Boston too. You know what I mean? And if they have the cap space, if they have it all depends on what, you know what I mean? It all depends on how some of the dominoes fall.
Yeah, Boston definitely likes adding in guys that can get a decent amount of points, like the 35 and up points guys, at least to their bottom lines a lot of
Exactly. And
times. So
he's
that would
he's
make some
28
sense.
years old and that would not be a bad fit for him there either, I don't think.
I would also not be surprised if Pittsburgh goes after guys like that because they always go after guys that have skill that can never fully, except for like 1 year of their career or two, kind of fully get it in the zone. Where
Yeah.
Grunland fully fits into that category. So I feel like they're also a team that could go after him. But Pirlo, who are your couple teams that you think could be a potential fit for him as one of the younger guys at 28 on the market as well? That's had a couple above 50-point seasons in his career as one of the younger guys.
I think Steele brought up a good one with Boston there. They could be conversing with Mr. Smith. They already took Nashville Predator and Craig Smith, and maybe Gronland's like, hey, I wouldn't mind going play with Craig. At least I know somebody. Then on the team, they do have $6 million in cap space, but they do have to sign Jake DeBrusk, and that's the issue there. They would maybe have to move things around for that to happen, but it's definitely as far as him having a chance to play for a team that's going to win the cup, could possibly win the cup. That would be a team that he may like to go to. I have a feeling, though, that he's going to do something a lot the same as Dadonov did and go with a 1 year deal with one of the bottom feeders. Maybe you mentioned Steele before this with Hoffman. I think it would be more like the LA Kings could would
Yeah.
give him a 1 year. They definitely need some offensive help there. And if he works out really well and they like him a lot, then they can extend him because he is, like you said, only 28 years old. If he works out well, but they feel they have young players that can replace him, they can use it as a draft pick. And that gives him more value and may give him more money on the 1 year deal to be able to, if he's willing to be that open to being traded at the trade deadline. So if he's looking for money, and who doesn't like the money? That's something I think he would do. Detroit, LA, Ottawa, but my feeling is something like LA. If he wants to be competitive right now and go for a cup, I like your pick of Boston. I think that does make a lot of sense.
Yeah, we're here. I mean, we're a pretty good team too. So
Yeah, I just don't think Philadelphia. I think Philadelphia would have to move around too much, and I'm not sure.
They would have to move. They would have to move some stuff.
Yeah, but you know what though, we actually have set ourselves up that we potentially could.
Yeah, that would be more if someone took Ghost now.
Right.
You have Gustafsson, who's basically a little bit of a more cleaner version of Ghost when he's playing at his best, if Ghost is not fully back yet. So that makes Ghost what many think more expendable. So that would free up about 4 million, 4.5. I can't remember the exact number. That will be a decent amount on top of the cap space we already have to be able to sign him at least for a 1 year if you want to give him a chance to bring him.
But he's playing on the right side. I mean, do you want a guy that small on your bottom six? He's not beating out Konechny. He's not beating out Forza. He's not beating out Raffle even, I don't think, honestly. So I just don't think there's room for him myself. That's all.
All right. Well, we can move on to our next guy, also a 28-year-old. Yeah, I read that correctly. 28-year-old free agent that's bounced around in his career. It's another quick skating, hard worker. He had 23 points in 63 games after having at least 30-point seasons in the 3 prior. What do you guys think of Connor Sheary, who finished out last year in Pittsburgh, going back to Pittsburgh, and where he could go is another scrappy bottom line, smaller guy, but doesn't necessarily care that he's smaller. He'll still get in those dirty areas. That's how he had his 150-point season. He was able to play pretty scrappy that year and get in those all the areas on the ice he had to, and he played with some of the guys to set him up. So I'll throw one team out there to get it rolling, and I don't know if Pearlo will be happy about this or not. One, because he can keep up with all their guys, is Edmonton. They have guys, if you remember, his best seasons were in Pittsburgh. Who did he have in Pittsburgh? He played with Malkin or Crosby. What tandem gets compared to Malkin and Crosby all the time is the new Malkin and Crosby? Oh, I don't know, Draisaitl and McDavid. So Connor Sheary might work out. It's just possible that since he had a 50-point season with Crosby and Malkin, he could definitely at least have something in the 40s, if not in the 50s also with Draisaitl or McDavid. So that's why I feel like that could fit. You need guys that can keep up with those cats out there in Edmonton. So that would be the one team I would throw out. And Pearlo, since I brought up your club, I'll let you start on this one and see where you think Connor Sheary could go.
I think I honestly think he's getting no more than a league minimum. And he could go to a lot of different teams. I could see him going to the Columbus Blue Jackets.
That's another one I was thinking of.
Thank you. Thank you for stealing my team.
Okay.
No, but that's good, though. That's great, because that just goes to show you that great minds think alike.
The Islanders are also
I think one. Another one that, because he's cheap and he can throw up some points and they could really use some points. Also, you got to remember how small he is. Like it's got to blend in a little bit. But maybe the San Jose Sharks might throw him a little bit. possibly for their.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I could see that. And then that those are the two teams that pop out at me. So I'll just we've been going long on a lot of these. As far as the Edmonton one, I don't think he's going to fit in there. We already have a small right winger in Yamamoto, and Jesse Puljujarvi which is going to be given ice time. So I don't really want to be playing a guy like that in my bottom six. So
That's
man,
just what I did forget about Puljujarvi.
Yeah.
Coming.
And you know, I'll be real honest with you too. I think there might be guys out there. It's honest. It's something that just goes to show he needs to play with really good players in order to be productive. It seems like
the most productive. Yeah, he puts up.
Okay, so if you don't have those
third tier seasons without those type of players, like 25 to 30 point seasons. Yeah.
So if you don't have those two guys on that line, then it doesn't really, you know what I mean? I think I would much rather go with somebody who's a little bit younger and a little cheaper, you know what I mean, with Dominic Cahoon going.
I think they're both going to do the same. I think Cahoon and Cherry are probably going to make about the same amount of money on it.
That's what I mean. That's why I brought him up, because I think they're 3 years in difference, but
it depends if you go with more provenness or a guy that has potential to shape him a little bit more because he's still in his prime, middle age 20s. You can try to get him fully going.
Yeah. And
so
Carolina is coming to mind.
Carolina is another the other C team. I had the other C team in mind. That's in your family's fanhood a little bit, which is the Blackhawks, because they said they're rebuilding.
Too,
and since they're rebuilding, a guy that's not going to cost you much, and either Cahoon, since we brought him up now too, or Sherry could fit there because they can with the players that can set them up there, produce points with those right players and not cost a lot of money for a team that's trying to rebuild or retool their team, whatever you want to say there. So,
I like that. I like that Chicago call, especially, you know what, they even have the space to get both of them.
They do. Yeah, Chicago.
Why not? I mean, why not? They could be a great, I mean, you could get that young player in Dominic, and then you could also get that proven player in Connor, and be able.
They already had Cahoon, so Chicago already had Cahoon at one time.
They did, yeah, but that doesn't stop a team. Stop.
Better.
Pittsburgh brought back Sherry.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I mean. So and we'll see. That was 2 years ago. You know what I mean? And we'll see. It's somebody that they know. It's somebody that's been in their system. You know what I mean? And if you bring in like Sherry with Dominic, and then you pair them up with the rest of the team that Chicago has, that might not be a bad call right there either.
No, because like I said, they're guys that have put up points at times in their career. And Chicago's not, it doesn't seem like they're trying to spend a lot of money right now. They're just trying to find guys that fit in well for them. So all those guys would make tons of sense. But let's wrap it up. We're going to do a couple of these videos too, by the way, for you in the off season as people continue to get signed of our remaining free agents, maybe even once a week on the Sports Fanatic News and True Philadelphia Sportscast channels. True Philadelphia Sportscast is where we're at audio-wise, and Sports Fanatic News is my YouTube channel where we're at video-wise. But we're close this out with a couple more forwards. The next guy I'll go to, because I know he's a guy that could potentially fit in well to someone's bottom six that has a lot of cups, that's also going to be really cheap. I feel like this guy's going to go to a contending team potentially to just be a good bottom six player with cups. Trevor Lewis.
Wow.
He's going to be a guy that has always been a work hard, play hard type player, like a Pitlick-esque player that has seasons he puts up points because he's always going to try to outwork everyone because he knows his skill is not going to out ridiculous everyone, because he was actually a first round pick. He just never turned into that fullness of a first-round pick, but he turned himself into a heck of a career, just solid player that could battle, be good on the penalty kill, has had in the 20-point seasons before, and has always had pretty solid PK seasons on the penalty kill for teams. So I think contenders, Boston, a team you brought up earlier, for fitting into their penalty kill and stuff like that, they always like having one of the better ones if they can, would be a team that came to mind. Another, because their PK they have so many young guys on it, could be Montreal. Those would be two teams I thought of that could potentially use, so they have less younger guys on their PK and someone that's more experienced to mentor those young guys as well as playing in their bottom six. So those would be my two teams. I'll let Steel start with this one. What do you think someone like him that has some cups under his belt could do?
Wow, I'm gonna go out west, and I'm gonna say maybe even could Edmonton. What do you think, Pearlo? Do you think Edmonton would be looking at something like that? That would be one of the teams that would come to mind. Either that or Calgary, or
Cheap at the
or
bottom.
yeah, one of those guys. Maybe here's another one too. And you say going to a contender. What is Dallas looking like? What do they got kind of as far as money wise? How many guys?
Trevor Lewis ain't gonna cost you that much though, because he made $2 million last year, and since he's going like he's kind of just been a work hard player more, I think would be like a 1.5 type guy. So whoever can afford about 1.5 at most.
Right. So if
most
Dallas
likely
could
probably
afford him, I think that would be a nice little upgrade on their side too. You know what I mean? Of course, look, all these guys we talk about, I would love to see for the Flyers. You know what I mean? But we don't.
Most of them, yeah. I don't know
Yeah,
about
most
all
of
the
them.
guys we're
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
talk
for the
about.
most part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
But
we're go ahead. What were you
no,
saying?
that's what I was just gonna say. I was just gonna say either Edmonton or somebody like that, or maybe even Dallas, depending on what Dallas is looking to do. They might be, because if you're saying he's looking for a contender, I think Dallas is going to be right there, or maybe even Colorado. You have to look at those teams that were in it this past year. I believe that those teams are going to be in it for the next year.
Oh yeah, 100%. I agree with that. Those teams are going to be in it, and they'll probably look for guys with, that winning experience of winning cups. But Pirlo, we'll go to you to who you think he might go to, and then we'll close out with the guy you wanted to bring up for the forwards, and then we'll move on to a couple goalies and defensemen and close out this week's edition. And then next week's I'm going to start with defense, since we've really covered forwards a lot this week. But what do you think of Trevor Lewis?
He's what, 35 now?
33.
33?
Hey, don't be making the man 2 years older than he is.
Yeah. And did he, am I right, did he finish, was he playing in St. Louis at the end of last year? I can't remember now.
No, I think he finished with the Kings still. I don't think he left.
Okay, so he still is with the Kings. He's 33. I think it's going to be a team. It could be several of the teams you're talking about. There's a lot of teams, so I'm just going to bring up a team that probably nobody was thinking about. Not because they were able to win a cup right away, but because I think his services would be deeply needed, and maybe he could get a few bucks out of it, and maybe even a little bit of term, and that would be the Florida Panthers. The Florida Panthers,
there you go,
so desperately need character in that room, and that's why they've made a lot of moves, like getting Patrick Hornqvist in there, and Radko Gudas, and guys like that. Zito came into that team and talked to the owner and basically came into his mind. This team needs character. This team needs some good veteran character, and Lewis is all that. Couple cups. Go in there, hardworking guy, keeps himself in peak shape, plays the game the way it's supposed to be played, and I think he could go in there and kind of just get these kids moving in the right direction. So that would be a team I would think that possible that he would choose. If he's just simply looking for cups, you guys brought up some pretty good ones there for sure too. I like you mentioned the Edmonton Oilers. I'd love to get some cups in that room, sure. We need cups in that room. We don't have any cups in that room. So
Yeah. Well, the last guy we'll bring up at forward for this video will be somebody that Pearlo wanted to bring up, which I've always liked him as a player too. When he doesn't think he's worth $2 million more than he is per se, but that's all right. It happens to the best of us. Anthony Duclair. He's a good player that can produce in the right situation. Again, if he wasn't asking for as much money at the age of 25, he would fit in well in Edmonton, playing alongside guys like McDavid with the speed he has, or Draisaitl, or Nugent Hopkins as well, who also is not a slow mover, because he had 40 points on Ottawa in 66 games. I realize he fell off a little bit, but the year before that he had 33 points after having 23 points. So he keeps going up these last 3 years. So he's a guy that's ascending. So I feel like I'll let Pearlo start with this one. He actually is worth at least a couple $1,000,000 because of his ascending stats, but probably not in like the 5s to 6 range that it was rumored he could be asking for, but maybe in the 3 to 3.5 range that you see people tend to get paid around before they get paid that 5 to 6 million deal. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I mean, he's got to get his head out of his butt. When he was in Columbus, he didn't play that. He's only had 1 or 2 real decent years, and now there's the cap is flat, and teams are not in it to take risks right now. So he really did like all the wrong moves here. Dropped his agent, went in and did the deal by himself, and then and the Ottawa Senators went like, yeah, no. So he looks really bad right now. So he's not doing himself any favor. So I don't know what apparently he's kind of a conspiracy belief, like he thinks everybody is out to get him or something like that kind of guy, and a little bit funny. So I think he will get signed. Hopefully he'll realize at the end of it all, unless he just wants to sit and wait and snivel, eventually a team will give him some money. But I'd be looking at a team like exact opposite of what we're talking about with Lewis, going to a team that needs to find character. I think a team now here would be a team that's already high character and think that they can absorb some of his possible antics and be able to fit him under the cap. So that would lead me to somebody like the St. Louis Blues, or who may have to peel off a couple veterans to get under the cap and could, still would like to get some offense. That would be the Pittsburgh Penguins. You've mentioned him a lot. That seems like a team that seems to think that they have a lot of character. I like to say that because I would really dispute the character level of Pittsburgh Penguins now compared to maybe a few years ago. But they seem to think that they have the character to be able to bring guys along. That's why they went and got Phil Kessel. His character was questionable. So I think Pittsburgh Penguins might try to work them under and give him 2.5 or 3 or something like that. Somebody like that would be a team that I would think that he could possibly go to, but he's really got to start thinking down the road. He's really got to start opening up his eyes and realizing nobody's giving him the money that he thinks he's getting.
Yeah, because that's how it always is. You never get what you think you're worth. You get what everybody else thinks you're worth.
The market says
and I like your pick there with that, but I was going to say like the Caps.
Yeah.
Like with Laviolette being there and the new coach, that might not be a bad call for Anthony Duclair to go there. You know what I mean? That might be a good fit for him there. Because
it's just
they have character. They have character, but they need character depth.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? So
yeah, they're just real. I agree with you, but they're so. I don't know how they possibly get the cap room to bring him on, but I agree with you. That's a team that could probably absorb that kind of person for sure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if that's what you're talking about, is somebody like a high character team like that. I definitely think Washington. I like your pick with Pittsburgh as well. Maybe,
LA could be a team
yeah.
because
Who's that?
chance guys that LA could be a team again because they got cap
Yeah.
space. And they're a team that seems like they're willing to take chances on
What about
guys that could
Buffalo?
Yeah, that's a good
potentially
one.
become part of
That's
the
a good
fold.
one, yeah.
Buffalo also is a good pool because, again, a team that's trying to find sneaky guys that can become part of their fold without having to spend top tier or even second top tier money for them because they find them before they really fit into
Yeah.
their team.
Yeah.
So,
How
yeah,
many
that would
Yeah.
be.
arms? How many arms does Stahl have though? He's going to have his
Yeah.
arms full just shaking Skinner around, let
He's
alone bringing on something
Spider-Man.
else.
He's got
I think a
16 legs. Yeah,
malcontent
yeah.
maybe Buffalo maybe doesn't want to go the malcontent, but I do like the LA guy, the LA idea.
Yeah,
That
I do too.
there's a
I do
lot
too.
of
I like
really
that
good
too.
reasons. Also, the coach, who I always forget his name, McClellan, I think would be good for a guy like that. No nonsense, but fair. And they've got like Dowdy. What would Dowdy do with the I really like that. That was a really good one, Joe. Too. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Now, for this one, I'm just going to list three goalies that actually still have statistics that they're actually definitely are going to get picked up as long as they don't retire, because all three of them are not spring chickens in terms of hockey age. They'll get signed by somebody to be at least a third goalie, if not a second goalie, because most of them have done good when they've had a good defense in front of them, even at their later ages. Ryan Miller is a guy I believe is going to stay out west if he decides to not retire. He's contemplating. He's going to either stay with the Ducks, I would think, or maybe if the if a team like the Sharks who don't even need like want him as their third goalie and he's fine with just getting paid for not doing much, or same with the Kings, just want good depth and he's fine. I don't think he's going to move very far. That's why I feel he's at when he's already contemplating retiring. Why would you move far to play? So I feel that's probably the best thing. Where Craig Anderson, I feel, is likely to probably stay with one of Canada's teams, so he doesn't have to completely readjust. But who knows where? Maybe if he doesn't do that, a team that definitely could use a veteran if he's going to be a guy that could try to beat people out. Um, he could also try to go to a team again like the Ducks or something like that because they got some young goalies coming up, and or you could try to go to because they got Stellars there where that will may help Stellars to be able to compete a little bit, something like that. Where Jimmy Howard's a guy who before last year did not stink. He just had lessening stats, but that's also because Detroit and still Steve Yzerman showed up, forgot what they were doing for a pretty decent amount of time before he showed up. But it's all right. He's there now, so now they'll be okay. But that's not important. The important thing is Jimmy Howard's defense was abysmal. They were Swiss cheese last year. So, like most of us could have skated past half of those people because half the time they weren't paying attention to the play. It's like, oh, wait a minute. Like I don't know what system they were running there, but it didn't work. But anyway, Howard with the right defense would be a guy. That's why if like someone like Hudobin left Dallas, Dallas was kind of going to be my pick for someone like him because like if you have a stacked defense, I think he fits in. A team like St. Louis could fit though because I think right now Billy Huso is slotted to be their backup, who's a youngster. So if they want to have a guy to kind of push Huso, just like the Ducks would be pushing if they sign Anderson and Stolars, that could also work as well because signing veterans that actually have stats in their careers pushes young guys more to be able to win that backup job as well. So it's kind of a win-win situation if you get them for well, you know you're going to get them for good money and they actually pan out, great. And then if they do pan out still, but your backup youngster plays better, then you have two guys where you can have three pretty good goalies, which is probably going to be huge for next year, honestly, because in a condensed season, God forbid, but there's likely to be more tweaked injuries with goaltenders. So having 3 deep rather than being 2 deep is probably going to be the first time that's actually potentially been very pivotal next year.
Right. Well, didn't Hudobin, didn't he re-sign with Dallas?
That's why I said if he didn't re-sign with Dallas, I would think
Oh,
Howard would
okay.
be.
Yeah. I don't know, man. Look, New Jersey, they bought out
Corey
um
Snyder.
Corey Schneider, so they're looking for somebody.
Yeah, he's
You know,
already signed too, Corey Schneider, which is kind of
yeah,
funny. He's
that's
got
right.
signed before everybody else. But good for
Yeah.
him. I hope he's able to bounce back.
So that would be the team that I would be looking for as far as somebody like that to go to them, because now they have a rather large hole there that they need to fill. So that's what I'd be looking for as far as New Jersey would be somebody that, I mean, if they're buying out $6 million for Corey, they obviously need some goalie now. You know what I mean? So they're they gotta have somebody. They gotta pick somebody up. You know what I mean? So
Yeah, that could definitely work. And then Pirlo, do you have anything to say about those goalies I brought up? If not, we can move on to a couple defensemen. As this is our first episode on this, went long, but that's okay because in podcast form we get people to listen to longer stuff too. So video form, not always, but podcast. So, who do you think anything about those goalies, or what are your
Well,
thoughts
I
on
think
them?
okay, it was Howard. Howard, I think, is just going to get a tryout contract somewhere.
somewhere,
Uh,
yeah,
Probably what he's going to get. Yeah, maybe a two-way. I did like what you said for what did you say? St. Louis. St. Louis seemed like a pretty good spot
Yeah,
yeah.
because they got Huso and Bennington, and yeah, definitely a veteran to be able to keep things around there if he jumps up and down between the AHL. Give him 1 year, 700,000 to play in the minors, and if necessary, that'd probably be not a bad spot. What other goaltenders were they again? I'm sorry, I might have missed it.
the other guys I mentioned were Craig Anderson and Ryan Miller.
Craig Anderson or Ryan Miller. Ryan Miller is Anaheim or nothing. I think he may retire, and if he doesn't, it goes.
Yeah, yeah,
Craig Anderson. That's a very good question. There, there's lots of places he could go that possibly, but again, more sounds kind of like a tryout type thing as well.
yeah. I don't think any one of these. I don't think these are the top goalies that are that are going to be signing with any. You know what I mean? These guys are just going to be depth players anyway. You know what I mean? So I think, especially if Miller doesn't come back with Anaheim, you know what I mean? Then I think he's going to retire.
Yeah,
And Jimmy Howard, if he doesn't get a tryout contract somewhere, he's either going to be playing in the minors or he's going to be sitting, and you know what I mean. So that's just kind of how I feel too. So
Yeah.
Anderson, he's the only one that has any kind of value as far as still being able to be able to play relatively well, I think, and be able to play at a high enough level to where he potentially could be a backup goalie.
Yeah.
Like I don't
yeah,
see him being your number one
yeah.
guy
I'm
and playing 40
also
games.
Mm-mm.
no, but I'm also a little bit which I know Pirlo knows this because last year again his defense was pitiful with bad defenses before he still did good up until the age of 36. I still think if you could keep your goals against and save percentage in a pretty good spot with Detroit up until one season where you were just really bad,
Yeah.
I'll give you a chance to bounce back and be somebody's backup. I still think Jimmy Howard has a chance to be somebody's backup if he, because again, it's not just competitive edge for the youngster when you bring in a veteran. It's competitive edge for the veteran as well to beat out that youngster and not let him have a job yet. So it goes both ways when you do that type of signing. That's why I call that a win-win
Yep.
situation. But for the sake of this video going long, I'm just going to bring up 2 defensemen for this one. And like I said, we'll start on defensemen in the next one to really hit them on the head. But we'll start this one with 2 right-handers. And I'll start it off with the 30-year-old Travis Hamonic, who finished playing with Calgary. And I'll go to Pirlo first. What are some teams you think Travis Hamonic could go to.
I'm surprised he didn't go to Winnipeg, but I'm not surprised he didn't go to Winnipeg. I know he wants to go to Winnipeg. I've always thought Hamonic was a little bit overrated, and it seems like the league is catching up to that idea too. But there's enough teams out there that still should need a 5-6. I think the biggest problem with Hamonic is he's basically come out and said he does not want to play out east. So it's going to be a Western team, and the team that needs defense the most doesn't appear to want him. And he's from there, Winnipeg. He's from Winnipeg. He's from Manitoba, and they don't seem to want him. So where are we going to go there, Mr. Hamonic? Everybody's pretty much filled up their D in the West that I can tell. Nashville, no. LA, possibly, if he wants to go there. LA could maybe want to give him a bit, but I think he's limiting himself quite a bit and is going to end up getting like $1 million, maybe even a league minimum contract to go to a team to work his way up in a lineup. San Jose Sharks, possibly. But all of they don't have all much cap space. I could see San Jose, but I'm really surprised that he didn't go to Winnipeg.
I was going to say Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Winnipeg definitely would think he would need him, but if he was going to go there, he'd probably already be there.
Yeah.
Well, because they signed Dylan DeMello, that they might, you know what I mean? They might have to work a different kind of a deal there, or they might have to be doing, you know what I mean? Depending on what the Dylan deal was, you know what I'm saying? So, that might be a place where he might go is Winnipeg as far as that's concerned. Gosh, man, you know, he doesn't want to play out east. So, and the West is pretty much, I mean, where's he going to go? I can't.
Like I said, Vancouver would be another option on my.
Yeah, Vancouver or Winnipeg, or I can't think of anywhere else that he could go. That
Vancouver's tight to the cap. They've got.
And Arizona's tight to the cap.
Arizona.
San Jose.
Next year, you can go play in Arizona.
Anaheim. Yeah. If Anaheim wants another righty for 1 year that they know is actually more steady because their defensemen have been wavy, like in terms of like striding up and then more plateauing, and then so if they can get more veterans in there, I'm not sure if they would be opposed to that, but that would be the only other team I could think of
he's only West. Getting $1 million a year as it stands right now at most, I would say.
What about Dallas? Do you think he could go to Dallas?
Dallas doesn't need him at all. Really.
That's what I mean.
Need him, but for 1 year, I mean, people go anywhere. Like teams that
sure.
When you get 1
if you
year
want
contract.
to sign for league minimum, come on, yeah, sure, we'll
have
you sit up in the stands.
I don't know though I don't know if it's going to go to Vancouver. You know what I mean? I was reading an article not long ago that said something about the talks breaking off with him going to Vancouver. So I don't know. That's one of those things where I think other dominoes are going to have to fall in order before, because you're going to see some of these guys are not going to get signed until the season starts. And then some guys are going to get hurt, and then you're going to see some of these guys get brought in.
A few, yeah.
Yeah, that might happen to a few guys, yeah. But as we wrap up this video, as this one was more of like almost an hour long rather than a half hour long podcast, we'll go with the other righty on the market that had a pretty solid when he went to Carolina. Did fairly well for them. In Sammy Vodnin, who looked pretty good in the postseason after playing for the Ducks, Devils, and then Hurricanes in his career. He's coming off of a mid 4 millions level contract. What are teams, I'll start with Steel on this one, that you think a guy like him could go to close us out here?
Well, I'm gonna go with the team that you maybe might have been thinking about, where Vancouver might be thinking about this guy here. You know what I mean? I think he played really well in the postseason, especially with Carolina. I think he showed well. He's got a good game. I don't. Is he going to be able to get his for whatever $1 million? Man, I don't know. But is Buffalo going to be a team that could look at him? Is where is New York? Where are the Rangers? What are they looking at? You know what I mean? These are some of the teams that I could think of that potentially could be looking at somebody like this.
Yeah, and then depending where Carolina's at, if he only ends up being able to get another 1 year, like a 1 year contract because the market's not what he thought it could be, that would be the situation where I wouldn't be surprised if he goes back to Carolina because he seems to
Stays
like
there,
it
yeah.
there and
Hey,
fit in well. That would be more, though, if he can't find a 10-year deal and needs to stay for 1 year because Carolina has more things to worry about down the line. So I don't think they're going to give him any tenure. But
yeah.
Pirlo, what do you think about Vodman?
I love Vatanen, and it's unfortunate that for him that he's a free agent now in this environment. Um, if there's one guy, out of all the people we're talking about, I think this is the guy that teams are going to make room for. There's going to be teams that are going to move players in order to get Vatanen on their team. Um, but, which one? Seriously, like it's very difficult to
We'll give you
really.
Ghost. We'll take Vanden. And we'll give you Ghost. We'll take that. That's almost money
Yeah,
for money
that's
right
not going to
there.
happen. Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking, okay, just go. He's close. My gut says that the New York Islanders find a home for Johnny Boychuk and put a 6 round pick on him, so give him up to somebody and sign Vatanen because they need defense really bad there. And Johnny Boychuk is just too injured. That's my gut feeling on where he would end up. He's used to that area, New
That's a
Jersey.
wild card pick too. That's a wild card gut feeling.
Alien lean on that one.
Yeah, pizzazz pick there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's that's where I think. I just
Yeah,
this
yeah, the alien lean on that
He
one.
really
Yeah.
enjoyed New Jersey. He really liked the New Jersey area and all of that. And the Islanders desperately need. And not only that, they're thinking about bringing Green back. And there's a
Correct.
lot of players there
Yeah.
that he's used to. He knows. It just seems like that would be the team that would definitely move some bodies to get a guy like that. And it's just Lamorello's type of player. I love that. I think he's so underrated. Doesn't get enough credit for how good of a player he is.
Yeah. Now again, if he's taking shorter tenure, 1-2 year deal because of the market, a team that could bring him in for some of their younger defensemen that haven't really fully stabilized their careers yet could be a team like Chicago to try to retool their team so they have in like a new wave energy type of defenseman that is always consistent back there, that part of a new mold and not part of the old mold. That would just be another team that I thought of since they let Slater Koku, who's right-handed, go, who was kind of improving a little bit in his career. Vodnin's a very good right-handed defenseman. You could definitely add him.
Do you think he
Yeah,
could go
I just
to
have a feeling.
Florida?
Florida.
Florida could work too. Yeah.
I just have a feeling after spending half of his career on poor Anaheim teams and then going to New Jersey through a massive rebuild, I don't think he's got that taste in his mouth to go to another team that's using the word rebuild. My thinking is he's looking for a place that he has a chance to win. So that's why I like
No,
that.
you're right. You're right. It's just when you go to those teams, they're probably going to give you more money. Like if you go to team, yeah, usually you get like a 500,000, a million more or so
Yeah.
from teams that are more retooling because they want to bring you in to help their culture too, and
Right.
not just their on ice play because they know they're not fully there yet on the ice. But anyway, guys, this has been a great video. We're almost fully at the hour mark. You can check out all of our information for Pearlo, Steel, and myself on SteelFlyers.com. And you can also check out Pearlo and I's betting page, our Patreon at bpalpicks/patreon.com if you want to check that out. And you can follow Pearlo at Pearlo's NHL Pal. I got that right?
Perlo's NHL pal, yeah.
Yep. And then you're at Steel Flyers 52
Yep.
on Twitter. And you can find all the rest of his information on steelflyers.com, where you can find all the rest of mine, other than the fact that I write for Pub Sports and OT Heroics as well. I am Joe Boric, where you can follow me at JJBoric26 with Steve Duncan, aka Pearlo Wisdom, and Steel Flyers. This has been our NHL first edition of our NHL's free agency off-season episode. Have a great, safe, and pleasant day, everyone. And again, please like, comment, and subscribe, and let us know what you think of the off-season so far. Peace out, everybody.